Oh, yes. Welcome to the Level Up podcast with your host, Samo. Um, and we got our first guest.
I'm the
And
only motherfucker he can get up this early. That's why.
that's true. That's true. You know, a lot of this shit was mostly because of a challenge that I'm on right now. But you know, better started than perfect.
Actually,
Um,
I'm always up early, but he was like, "Yo, want to do this?" I'm like, "I got mad shit to do," and I'm like,
Man, you have mad shit to do later. All right, get out of here.
"That too."
So we got our first guest, a brother I've known for a super long time. We met through the breaking industry or the breaking scene in New York City. He was my rival for a long period of time until your boy
I
kind of
was not his
surpassed him.
rival because I'm before him. That's first and foremost. Let's get that shit straight, okay? And
we
as he came up through the ranks, he started to show promise.
exactly. You know what's up. You know what's up. He is a not only is he a fellow b-boy, but he's also a martial artist as well as a stuntman in the entertainment industry. Somebody I'm pleased and have the pleasure to call my brother. We got Jamal, aka Nemesis Warren, who's literally choking
Hey,
right now. What's good, bro? How you
easy as
doing?
shit on my intro.
How you feeling? How you doing? How you feeling?
All right, it's early Tuesday morning. Lots of shit to do today.
I feel
So
you.
kind of like I be like testing myself. So in the morning, like usually people write what they gotta do the night before, right?
Hmm.
Which which I tend to do sometimes, but in the morning I'll get up and write what I have to do for the day.
What do you feel the benefit of doing it in the morning is before than rather than doing it the night before? Or is that just
Um in the morning it
the way
kind of
that you prefer to
reminds me of
do
what
it?
to do. Exactly. That's why. In the
Hmm.
morning, it makes me like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. So it makes me like, it just makes me like refresh my memory on everything. So I do it in the morning as well. Hold up. Hold up.
Yeah,
Hold up. And we're back. Okay, what's your question?
no. I was gonna say I've you know
You what?
it was just free flow whenever
Oh,
it
okay.
came to my days and whatnot. I realized how much as we get older, that memorization is definitely not up to par no more.
Hell no, yo, dude. I
Bro,
felt some
you know how
kind
many
of
times
way
I've
because I
woken up?
kept forgetting shit. Like, I'm like, yo, is early dementia kicking in? And my grandma's had to tell me, like, yo, dude, you it's just not gonna be the same like it was before. And I'm like, nah, this shit can't be happening. Like, I started eating walnuts and shit because I heard it helps your brain. I'm just like, I keep them shits in here because I'm just like constantly trying to remember stuff. I took Facebook off my fucking phone. I limit the time or how much social media that I take in every day now. I'm like so on it when it comes to that type of shit because I don't want to like. I see like dementia and memory loss and all that type of shit in my family as you get older. That
Mhm.
shit is not cool. Cause I always say like, yo, if I ain't got my wits and my memory and I can't remember, it's time to go. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, it's
But I
super
just
real,
be
man.
like,
It is
what you
super
say?
real. I said it's super
Yeah,
real. Like,
yeah.
Yo,
Cause I've seen that shit. I have a cousin. She's like way older. She's like almost 90, right? And so she like just like 2 or 3 years ago, she was like she was super spry, get up, walk around, do all of this shit. And like right during the pandemic, I think she went through like some sort of dementia or whatever. And I spoke to her like a month or two ago, and we had a conversation, but she kept like reverting back to what we were saying before and couldn't remember that we got past that. And I was like, oh man, fuck.
man.
Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just was like, God damn it. Like, this is what's gonna happen. Like, I hope it doesn't happen. Like, I see people get older and still remember stuff, but I don't want that shit to happen to me. I don't. I'm like, uh-oh.
Sometimes it's just interesting how like there's like certain people that you'd see that be in the tip top shape
Right,
and like so sharp, bro. Like there's I have a best friend who's from Long Island. Uh, I call them my family. I literally call mom. I call grandma, all
right,
that
right.
stuff. And they're super close to me. They're basically like my guardians for a couple of years of my life. And bro, something about grandma. She is like in her. I want to say she's in her late 80s.
Right.
She is sharp as a knife, bro. I sometimes I just like really understand like how is it that you could secure that when you get to a certain age, when you're older, that you're gonna be in like the illest shape ever.
I think it's Sudoku and and the word puzzles.
Fucking cross puzzles. Yo, they
Fucking crossword
fucking
puzzles
working,
and
bro.
Sudoku. I swear that's what I think it is, B. I think if it's the more you read and the more you kind of like exercise your brain a little bit more and you cut the fucking TVs off and all that type of shit. I mean, of course you need some imagination, but I think the more time, and this is, listen, I'm no expert on this shit at all. I'm not, I'm just totally guessing this right now. Okay, that the more your brain is exercising, because it is a muscle, right? It's a muscle that's moving, pulsating, and that it's working. The more you are constantly doing this shit, especially where your memories are stored back here, you'll be a little bit more sharper. Your wits will be a little bit more together. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
As far as I can see, people who constantly crave information and want to know will kind of constantly be sharp. You know what I mean?
yo,
Like I don't I don't I read certain books, right? Because there are books that I actually just want to actually read the words, right? But I listen to ebooks a lot of the time, or those sorts of things, or I'll go to like a YouTube channel on a book and just listen to that shit constantly. Like I like watching, I love history, so I'll be learning shit about war and certain periods and times and eras of the world or whatever. Like constantly trying to learn stuff all the fucking time, just so that my brain can actually like absorb and be working. You know what I mean? And then also you try to challenge some of the information you already know, so that that part is actually working, because you want to be a critical thinker too at the same time. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, I try as much as I can. Also I see my fucking vocabulary has gotten lower. It's like I'm losing words and shit and forgetting words that I know sometimes. I'm like, it's crazy.
I mean,
So
that goes back to you like saying that everything is a muscle. I feel like even your language is a muscle.
yeah,
As long as you're constantly reading and challenging your mind and challenging your ideas and whatnot, you're gonna come across vocabulary and whatnot. Isn't it interesting how like sometimes you'll read certain things, like maybe it's a word that you've never heard before, but when you read and it's like formulated in a specific sentence, you kind of like already know what it means.
Yeah, of course. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
My grandmother was actually good at that, right? It's how I got good at like learning words or bigger words, right? Couldn't spell them shits to save my life or something, but I actually knew what they meant because she would use them in sentences and she would say, "Do you know what it means?" And I'll either say yes or no, and she'll tell me what it means. And then as time went on, that's how I got to understand a lot of things. And I'll be like listening to adult conversations and shit, and they'll be like, they'll obviously be thinking I don't know what they're saying, but I actually did know what they were actually talking about.
yeah.
So
I could definitely agree on that. When I was younger, I used to be around older people quite often. I mean, I would say that, you know, I did grow up like being around kids or whatever, but whenever I was around adults, I always paid really, really close attention to the conversation a lot
yeah,
of the time. And then even like growing up in high school, I don't know, I always attracted older people one way or
right,
another.
right.
And yeah, I remember being like I think I was about 10 years old at the time, maybe like 10 or 11. I remember getting super hype at this moment, but this girl that was just at my house, I can't even remember who she was. She was probably like my mom's friend's daughter or something like that. And I
Had
remember she was,
those.
plenty of those. Um, and I remember she was about maybe like 4 years older than me. Like, you know, when you're younger, 4 years is like a lot
It's
of
like
years.
huge.
Yeah, yeah, you're like, oh, you're bigger than me, right?
Right.
I remember, I remember at the
There's a
time,
maturity level though at that
yeah,
time though
no,
too. That's
it
a
is drastically different. It is
yeah,
that,
it's like it really doesn't change until like after 25. Like that's when shit starts to kind of like meld together a little bit.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah. It starts, yeah.
okay.
The gap gets smaller.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the gap gets smaller. So yeah, man, I remember her telling me like, yo, you're really mature for your age. And I got
Right.
super hype, bro. I like I definitely pat
That
myself on the
compliment
back
was
for
like
that.
everything.
Yeah, seriously. Especially when it's you know somebody that's older, you know that damn, she's a teenager. She's telling me that I'm mature, you know? And I think honestly it gave me a little bit more confidence on being able to talk to people that weren't necessarily my age and them not look at me like I was like a young scrub, you know.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
That's good, Joe.
So there's a couple of things that I want to. First off, I want just for the listeners. Obviously, you already know I know everything. However, just for the listeners, I want them to know a little bit more about your background, especially coming from the Bronx and getting into breaking.
Yeah.
What did you get into martial arts before you got into breaking?
Yeah, I was doing martial arts before I was breaking.
Now, how the hell does a young black kid from the Bronx get into wushu, or what was it at first?
Oh, it was karate at first. That was kind of easy,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So like back in the like late 80s, I want to say, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, you have like all of these martial arts schools and things like that. And a lot of schools that obviously they were big enough, they could house not just their classes when they had them, they could house other classes and
Hmm.
other martial arts inside of them. So like more so they became like these martial arts centers pretty much. But in particular, my school, which was on Fordham Road in the Bronx, we did karate and we did kickboxing, you know. And then one of my friends that I met there, he was into like kung fu and stuff, and so they had a eagle claw, like a martial art teacher there, and he had a section of the school and it had like kung fu memorabilia on it, right? And
Hmm.
so I saw it and I was like, oh shit, like wow. and I saw like these pictures, but it didn't look like the style that he was teaching. And when I saw it, I was like, oh shit, this looks very interesting and different and really dope, right? And I was like, wow. So my friend that studied Kung Fu, he was like, yeah, I like this. I want to go to the Shaolin Temple and all of this stuff. And I was like, I want to be a ninja.
Yo, I was a ninja for like every Halloween, probably for like 10 years in a row.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
bad.
That was
That's
just,
how like comforting and bad I
yeah.
was to be a ninja.
He was like, especially it's like ninjas are like, it's like a kid's dream because it's like I could do all this amazing shit. I could cover up my body and nobody not know who I am and what I did. So it kind of plays into that kind of mindset a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But anywho, what I used to do is I used to really want to be a ninja, like for real. Like in my head, like I watched all the Shokosugi 80s ninja movies and shit like that. And that's what got me like going like crazy. I had all of them shits on Betamax, you know, and then VHS came out and I got it all on VHS. And then I would go to the library to study about ninjas. I would try to find books on different martial arts, right? Before capoeira even made it big to the public here, that was huge. I already knew what that shit was already. Like
Right.
I I I would just read about this everything. Like I was beyond a martial art like wanting to be. I was like a huge fucking fanatic, like crazy. Like I would see some sort of Asian sort of writing. I would be like, that's a martial arts school. I want to go see it. It had nothing to do with martial arts, but
Meanwhile, it's
that's
a
the
fucking
way I was thinking as
Chinese
a
food.
child. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm
funny.
like, I would so everywhere I went, like I'm trying to like figure everything out. Not until I started martial arts, I started like for real, I started to understand like the difference, and I would be in the library all the fucking time. So through that, I started learning, like, not only did I learn about like ninjas for real, I started learning about like Japanese history because when you learn about ninjas for real in books, you start learning about warfare because that's really when they were being used at the height of their um, um, of their popularity or use. It was during warfare. So that led me into learning about mad interesting things about Asian history and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So once I started competing, right? And then I switched from a private school, right? First, I went to kindergarten, right? For like a year, right? A private school. Got pulled out, went to public school, right? For X amount of years. Got pulled out of there, went back into private school, right? Got pulled out and went to public school again, right?
What were the years that you went to
I went to private school for kindergarten for a year, pulled out, started started in another school, and I went to about third or fifth grade, third or fourth grade. Yeah, fourth grade. I went to fourth grade. After fourth grade, I went to private school again. From there, when I was going into sixth grade, I left there and went to back to public school again.
Okay.
And I went to a pretty cool public school, but was also still a really bad school. Because by this time, it was probably like 1992, 93, and it was junior high school by this time. And it was like, it was all kind of like,
Yeah, junior high school, New York.
yeah, it was like wild, wild. Like I had knives in my fucking book bag. The first time April, like not April Fools, but Freshman Friday, I had
Oh,
experience
I
of
remember that.
almost getting jumped right? Getting into fights. I was walking, they were like, yo, let's get him. I ran. I was like, all right, it's like, fuck that shit. Turn around. And then they were like, oh, he turned it around. He turned it around. And I was like, gonna fight and shit. Then the security came. Then I went, obviously went to class or whatever. And then I came out and then like I seen them, they were like scheming and shit like that. Went back, went home, actually went to my uncle's house and shit. And we talked about it. And he told me like what to do and everything like that, you know. And then, after that, the kids that was trying to jump me, I ended up befriending them, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it was out of respect for the
Yeah,
most
yeah,
part.
yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up befriending them and became cool, right? So I was getting into trouble because I was fucking with them kids, right? Just doing all kind of bad shit.
Yep.
And all kind of bad shit. And my my grandparents had to come to school or whatever. And then they were talking about this martial art program that they had in the school. And my grandma was like, you do martial arts. Why don't you join this program? And I was like, this shit kind of like, I didn't think it was like anything. I thought it was like, it's not at the same level as my school. You know what I mean? Like I was on that type of shit.
Oh,
So,
wait. You saying you didn't think it was the same level as the initial school that you went to?
right. I didn't think it was like, I thought it was just like a self-defense, like, because you heard of those things, but it wasn't about, like there was no lineage attached to it. You couldn't go like you couldn't do like tournaments and stuff. So that's the way I was thinking without even knowing. So it was this teacher in there named Mr. Major. Now this motherfucker, he was like 6'4", 6'5", brolic. Ain't nobody fuck with this guy. Like once you said Mr. Major is coming, anybody in every classroom in that entire school, and I don't care what grade it was, they fucking shaped up. They were like, click, like
Oh yeah,
they
no, you
nothing.
especially at that age, you don't want to fuck with nobody that got a whole bunch of muscles and
Yeah.
like you know.
But see, but you know what that also taught me too is that's why you need more men or black men in the school system, because men as teachers, they their presence eliminates a lot of fucking shit.
100%,
Their
100%,
presence eliminates a lot of problems.
right.
Like black men strong that is just sitting there and you talk to them like you talk to kids like they're becoming of age, you eliminate most of the damn problems right away.
You know, it's
You know?
interesting you say that because there's I don't know if you saw this go viral online, but there was this organization of dads, black dads that were part of
Oh,
this
I
one
saw that.
school.
And they were patrolling the school, right?
Yup, and they
And
was
that
just
shit
walking around,
eliminated
motherfuckers
problems, right?
shooting. They said they eliminated all the problems in the school, and like it was one of the worst schools in the area. And once they started doing security there, things just started like dimming down like crazy.
But
You're
see,
right
but that's
about
what I'm
that.
talking about, because we're animals, bro. Like we push the line regardless to what we say. Oh, you should know better. I'm like, yeah, but you see the mistakes we make consistently because it's just nature in itself. You know what I'm saying? There's like a kid doesn't know not to go in the street, because they don't know about cars as like how bad it could get, but as an adult, So you say don't go in the street, that kid go in the street, you be like, nah, I'm taking you home because you trying to teach a lesson. It's the same shit. It's like,
Mhm.
that guy, you test him, something is liable to happen. Of course, we know better that that person should not do that, but you don't know what's going to happen if you test that person.
Word up.
So you like, yo, I'm not going to cross that line. But yeah, back to my story as to just like seeing a guy like that, it was just like, whoa. But I didn't know he was a martial artist and he was running a program. So when I went and I showed up, he was like, "Oh, you know martial arts? Like I was pretty good already. I like beat one of the best students in my first day, right? In a sparring match.
One of the kids that was already part of that school.
Right. I beat him. I beat him in a sparring match or whatever, and that was cool. So he, we started building a rapport. We became mad cool, and then he took me to my first national level tournament. Right. I ain't even been to a national level tournament at my other school, but he took me to my first national level tournament. And then from there, I got interested in seeing all these different styles and stuff like that. But that was the first time I saw wushu. Like I was like, oh, this shit is dope. And I was trying to figure out where I could learn it. And immediately I go right, because back then it wasn't no fucking internet. You had to go to the yellow page.
Those are the days.
Yo, there was this big ass book, a big ass yellow page book, and I would be like this. My bad, y'all. My bad.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Go ahead. Repeat that.
I had a big ass yellow page book looking, and it had words in it, and it said Kung Fu, woo, Kung Fu. Look for all the Kung Fu schools in a certain area, and I would rip out the yellow pages, right? And I would get on a train, because by this time, I think I had turned. No, actually, this is fast forward like at least 2 or 3 years, and fast forward 2 or 3 years. I'm going into 8th grade. So that's when I started to get into wushu. But by this time I was already competing consistently. So I ripped out the yellow pages and I would go downtown, ride the trains, and look like 13, looking for martial arts schools and shit like that. Right? Mind you, I would sit down with my boy Arky. We would go to Chinatown all the time because we want to get buns, like hot buns and dumplings, and we would buy martial art weapons. I had mad martial art weapons in my house, all over my room, hanging on the wall, everything. Like, you knew that was my shit. Then I found this one school, and it was this guy named Javon Holmes, a black dude, and he was mega good at this shit. And then come to find out, he taught some of the students that I saw at the tournament where I first saw that. And then, he became my teacher too as well. And I was learning, I was still doing karate and kung fu at the same time. So it was like pretty good for me. And then the program, I had left the school and I was just in Manhattan mostly because by this time I went to high school. So I would, every now and then I would go back up to the school and train with my friends and stuff like that. But then Mr. Major ended up leaving that school and going to another place, and I ended up just doing Kung Fu Wushu, and I just stayed doing that. And I got, pretty at a good level with that and just started training or whatever. And then, one thing led to another. I think my teacher was going through some shit. He just got really weird. So then by me still competing, I started meeting other teachers. I switched to another teacher named Chen Ying, who was actually from China, who trained, professionally. And then I started training with him. And then that's just been my teacher from that point on, And so.
How important do you think it was, like, for you to go through that experience and be part of not only a specific culture, but also be under somebody's wing at that age? Like, do you feel like that shaped you?
Yeah, to a degree, right? Because I think, like, to me, I'm kind of like what people would call a latchkey kid, right? Like, latchkey kids are, your parents are not really around because they're working or whatever. You kind of got your own key, you let yourself in, you do all the shit.
Right.
Everything you do is pretty much by yourself. So that's the type of kid I was. Although I grew up in a fucking house full of fucking kids, uncles and cousins and my brothers, right? And my brother. But I would just be alone. Like, I didn't care about, like, I would just be alone,
Yeah. And I mean, yo, you talking about the '90s and being able to like ride the train
And
by
hold on,
yourself
that
during
was
that
a
time.
that was a tough ass time. You know what I'm saying? Like in New York, like, and it's like this is a time when you was out, you was with a group of motherfuckers, right? I was by myself because that's how confident I was in my martial arts, and also I had a, but no, but I had some goodies in my bag too. You know what I'm saying? Or in my sneaker. So like I wasn't like really worried because in my head I'm always basing things on different scenarios and stuff like that, right? So, but for once, like when I was in junior high school and we just finished martial art training, right? We were sparring, we were getting ready for a tournament. And so after we would go out and we would eat together sometimes, right? Like around the school, because it was around a busy area. So we walked through this block that's around the school. Now we already know the type of neighborhood the school is in and every like all around, especially in the Bronx during that time. We walked right into a fucking shootout, not knowing. Yeah, yeah. We go boom, I jump and I roll. My teacher grabs like four of the students and pulls them down because he's mad big and strong, and he pulls them down. I roll down, and then we're low, and then they just start running. And then we see one kid come out, and he's like, blah, 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 still shooting at them or whatever. And then we after he puts the gun away, he runs up the block. We come from under well, some of us was under the car, some of us is down low by the wall. We come out, we go around, he goes into the McDonald's and he's telling them to call the cops. They're not moving, and then he just goes behind the counter and he pushes the cashiers. And he says, "Where's the phone?" And he makes sure that the cops is called and everything. That was just one scenario. Like that's just one. There's like two others that like shit like that happen. But when those types of things happen, he would make sure like sometimes not to say fight against a gun, but he would, different scenarios he would try to like prepare us for to get us out of danger and shit like that. You know what I'm
Right,
trying to say?
right.
So by having that anxiety and that pressure, going through it and knowing what it feels like, he's like, yeah, I felt, he's like, you know what that felt like? And we're like, yeah. He's like, you feel that? It's like, yeah, know what that shit feels like because just like how people approach you in the street, in these scenarios like that, these things are possible.
Yeah. And
You
that's
know what
and
I'm
that's
trying to
the and
say?
that's the feeling that you're gonna go back to every time. Like you're gonna
Right,
that
right,
level of
exactly.
anxiety. Yeah.
So so that was like one, I just was like, fuck, like, so like me traveling around by myself and then looking at groups, you able to look at people and see who's a threat, who might not be a threat. You get what I'm trying to say? So those are like those teaching moments that taught me a lot about like body language. You know what I'm saying? And who's really the threat, who's really the problem,
Yeah,
like
and a lot
who
of those situations, those people, even though they may not say a lot, in certain scenarios they will be a little loud. However, there are in some scenarios they're the most quiet in the room, and they'll but if you're alert and you're aware enough, they're actually the loudest. Based off of like the way they move in and just
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
human kind
yeah.
of like energy. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Uh-huh. So that's why I was like those moments is so like prized to me, you know what I mean? I met a lot of good people through that, some some good folk. And then like, after that I was in high school, obviously downtown, just I was going to a performing art high school and just doing martial arts and stuff. And then like I found dance. I didn't find dance because I was already dancing already. But when I saw breaking again, like I've been seeing breaking, like because you see it around the Bronx every now and then or whatever. But I'm just not like tripped out on it because it's kind of like it's almost typical, normal,
Really, was
almost.
it at the time?
Almost, not almost, because you see people hitting all the time. And if you go to the right place or center, you'll see like a show and some kids are breaking and stuff like that. You like, yeah, you give it props, right? But since it's not in your immediate atmosphere, you don't really know where to go. So it just drops out of your mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So now that I'm a little bit older, I have a little bit more sense to kind of like, if I want something, I'm gonna go grab that shit. I'm gonna go get it. So that's where, like how I really like grasp breaking, because I actually went to go get it, like go get it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
My boy, he couldn't go to like martial art training with me no more. So he ended up he would go train with me at my house, you know what I'm saying, all the time. And we would practice sparring all the time. And then we took a break. And then all of a sudden he started breaking. I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I'm saying? So now I really feel compelled to go start breaking, because he's doing that shit, right? And he's like, a martial arts, like he's like, yeah, I got into it because um he said, yeah, I got into it because what was it? Because I couldn't, he couldn't really like go practice as much as he could, because he didn't have like enough money or whatever. So I said, all right. So, I found he started teaching me a little bit, he taught me some moves and taught me a little bit. And then after that, I just started looking for a spot, and I ended up at the point and I saw legs. And that's when, I started learning like for real, for real.
That so legs was. Would you say that legs was one of like the first
Yeah, yeah, like official B-boys, hell yeah. I always
official
say
b
that.
boys you saw?
Yeah. No, no, no. I see like other official B-boys before. Like I seen Ill Will before, like before I met Legs. I seen Spivey Wade. I seen like a couple of kids before I even met. There was a kid from my block named Al. He was really nice. But in the projects where I grew up, Al was really dope. Like him and his brother was known for dancing and shit like that. But they could do a little bit of shit stuff. But um, but when I went to meet Legs, it was like, oh, like this is where motherfuckers go. But then check this out. By this time, it's like middle of high school, right? And I'm seeing kids that I see from junior high school that I used to know, where I was doing martial arts with Mr. Major.
Hmm.
And those kids was into some shit because they were all breaking it. And I was like, oh shit, you break, you break, you break, you break too. Oh shit. And then one of my boys, Flo, he was down with a crew called Bronx Rockers, right? And they got taught by Fever, and some of them got taught a little bit by Nest too. And they were nice, like nice, nice. Like
Hmm.
they were around my area, and we would want to try to get down with them, but it just never really happened or whatever. But a lot of them already quit, and I kind of like kept going. A lot of people in my area, it was probably like during the resurgence, it was probably like 40, 50 B-boys in my area by itself that was starting
Wow.
to break and really put in time. And then probably by like the third year, they all stopped. They all stopped breaking. It was like, and this is when New York was like coming back, like growing, growing, growing. You had
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 different crews that was like coming up that, names that nobody would actually know now. But Niff, Flo, they were all pretty dope. Then my boy Flo got locked up, and then he came out and he was like doing his thing a little bit later or whatever. But he was pretty good, man. But I saw them, I was like, damn. But then what I found out was they got down with like nietas and shit like that. And I was like, all y'all motherfuckers is down with these motherfuckers. They were like, yeah. I was like, oh my God. It's like, but then we would go to this club in the Bronx called was it the Playhouse? I think it was called the Playhouse or some shit like that. But it was like some teen night shit, like, you know what I'm saying? And but it was just filled with bad girls, yo. And like it was just a time when you go and it's like, yo, we gonna break, and then we would go dance, do the reggae thing, then play breaks, and then we just start breaking. And
Yeah, it's interesting. Like teen nights was one of those things that
I
it
didn't think I
was
was at a real club, to be honest. Like that wasn't like the real experience. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Because it's
but
just like,
it was somewhat of a real club for us at the time. Even if it wasn't an actual club, it was the time that we got to. It was almost like that time where you're not being chaperoned. Like, did you have school dances when you were growing up?
hell yeah, in high school, hell yeah.
Right. So the difference between having going to a school dance and going to a teen night was stupid drastic. It was
Of
ridiculously
course.
drastic.
But this is the thing though. They wasn't selling us alcohol at the bar. That's why I'm like, this experience is not the same. Like for me, you know, when I would go to like these teen night clubs out
Well,
here, you know what I'm
obviously, like
saying?
you know what I'm saying, you're not gonna, you know, obviously they're not gonna give you. It's a fucking teen night. That's like a
Yeah, I
liability you
know.
can
So
have.
for me, it's not a real club experience like that. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, security is there to the max, like crazy, because they don't want
Yeah.
no shit popping up. But yeah, that's like, nah.
Nah, man.
But yeah,
I remember teen nights being very eventful growing up. I remember always having to dress up for teen nights. I remember, you know, always being excited to you know dance with girls and do all that or whatever. But definitely to battle. Like
oh hell yeah.
teen nights, were like yo, nah, whoever's here, they
Is
are
getting
better
it, right?
to get it.
Hell yeah.
Yo, it was crazy, man.
That was it for
I'm
me. I
really
was like,
thankful for
I'm
those
bringing
nights,
it to
man.
everybody.
Yeah, I know. I'm thankful for those nights because they help set up the whole etiquette of how to behave in the club when I got older.
Yeah,
And it's
it's
not so much the behavior; it's more so like okay, it's the app. It's literally well, all right. For teen nights for me, we're at an actual club, minus the alcohol, of course, but they were in an actual club.
yeah.
So yeah,
No, it wasn't an
it was
actual
really
club
special.
for us. It was a club, but it just happened to be this night. You know, this was for younger people, and I just was like, oh, like it was cool. I was thankful for it, right? And I only say that now because I actually experienced a real club. The first real experience club I went to was Shelter with Dave and everybody. You know,
Yo,
it's
that was
funny,
such a
like
legendary spot. It was
yeah,
legendary before I even became old enough to go.
yeah, yo, that shit was crazy, bro. It was like on the other side was was wetlands. It was like a lounge, right? But it was like big enough you could do like a small battle in it. But that's where they did all the bragging rights in that shit.
Hmm.
And that shit would be jam packed with everybody from the tri-state area. No, not even just tri-state. It was Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, all in fucking the thing for bragging rights. It was, oh yeah, Virginia as well, like the DMV area. Like everybody was. It was like back then in the '90s. If there was a jam anywhere, you was going to that shit no matter where you went because there were far few in between, right?
Hmm.
And that was a place where you could really like people could know who the fuck you are, and that's what you wanted to do, you know. I was like, when I first experienced that shit, when I first started coming around, people were sleeping on me. Oh my gosh, so shit was crazy. Yo, Dave wouldn't even look my way.
No, you and I both, bro. You and I both.
Yo, the motherfuckers wasn't even looking my way. He was bigging up motherfuckers that was doing. I was like, yo, what the fuck? Nobody like. I was like, I watch. I'm
Yo,
gonna
but
show you.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm really thankful that I had to work hard for my
Oh
recognition.
hell yeah. I ain't mad at that shit because I ain't mad at that. It was weird to me because like coming into martial arts or from martial arts, right? It wasn't hard to get those props, right? Because I trained hard and I just was like, I'm going. Because you come from a this is the difference. And I hate when B-boys be trying to compare their discipline and the way they are to martial arts. Cause I'm like, you're not those type of people, right? And I say that to say this, right? There is a a space where they do push you and they don't give you easy props, right? But there's also a space of tutelage on how to get to that point, right? In breaking, it's like there is no tutelage necessarily, but then they still look at you like shit. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like this. It's like if I'm that bad, then help me. You know what I'm trying to say? And
Yeah,
then after you help me, then step the fuck away and then say, let me see what he does with this.
right,
And then till he get it. That's not there necessarily, only if let's say a particular person takes somebody under their wing and they go, I want to work with this person or whatever.
right. They
You
see the
know?
potential in you ahead of time.
Exactly. It's like I can't shit on this kid and be like, oh, he's not that. He's not doing this. I didn't, he probably doesn't even know. And I can't, even like help him with something real quick. And then let me see if he actually takes the information I gave him and utilize it. Because then that's going to indicate to me that this person wants it. That's also going to indicate to me maybe I can give this person a little bit more, and see what he does with it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mhm.
So, so when people like in this community or break in, excuse me, try to like use the way they do things is that it's not the same. It's not at all. Like not at all. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of like you don't even know what this atmosphere is really like unless you are really a real martial artist. You know what I'm saying? And you break. Like for me,
Right,
I
right.
consider myself. For me, I consider myself. This is what I consider myself. I'm a dancer, right? But I'm a martial artist first, right? Because through that is how I found my gateway. You know what I mean? Like before, like I grew up dancing in the house with my grandmothers and my mom and certain people, like listening to certain records and stuff like that, right? But the actual discipline of dancing, came a little bit later, but it came through my martial art background. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So how I view myself is a martial artist that can dance, not a dancer that is a martial artist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it came first.
Right.
Came first.
You know, and and the thing that probably stuck with me before that is like just rhythm, music, knowing how to move to certain things. You know what I'm saying? So like that also helps tremendously.
Yeah, and would you say that that I'm sure. All right, did you get better at martial arts when you started learning how to like dance and break? Well, break specifically because that came later. You already knew how to dance,
Uh,
or was it something that you could like did, or were you still going through your martial arts journey when you learned how to break? Did you pause it during that
Sometimes, like I
time?
would pause it a little bit, and my teachers and seniors would be mad at me because they'd be like, "No, this is it. This the way." Blah blah blah. Right? And you should stop breaking or whatever. Right? And I didn't want to stop breaking really because that was kind of like a whole nother outlet for me because I didn't really have to spend too much money doing it. And when I started breaking, it was really a way to kind of like help me pay for martial arts and shit like that because I was like, oh shit, I could actually like, but also it also was like I I found more of a through way with breaking, like doing martial arts, there's a lot of when you get to a certain level, the shit becomes about politics and becomes
Yeah,
about other things. And then it becomes about perception for others, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like, I don't want to be caught in that, like, stuck in that perception like that way. You know what I'm saying? I would
Yeah.
rather, huh?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I would rather just where I'm gaining headway and being accepted, that's where I'm gonna go. And that's what was happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
For me.
I find it interesting that adults don't realize how much they actually turn kids off when they start bringing drama into the whole equation.
Yeah.
It's like most kids just want to be part of something, as you know, like just like you said, as an outlet, you know, as a way of, you know, getting out of like their normal day-to-day life. Is something for them to look forward to. But once they start bringing the drama and the politics into it, yo, it really starts pushing kids away. It starts pushing
Yeah.
kids away, man. Like I know, I mean, thankfully for me, you know, for the most part, most of my journey was really you know, me having fun with my boys and learning together with them and whatnot. And I remember the first time that drama just started and politics started coming into like into my whole journey of learning how to break. Bro, I remember like dipping and dodging that shit as much as I possibly could. You know, like, yo, why are we talking about this? Like, why is this part of the conversation? Why are we even like taking it to this level when yo, all I'm doing is having fun, and y'all taking
Right.
all that shit away due to like your that nonsense. Really, it's
But you know
nonsense,
what,
bro.
you know what I discovered now, Samo, is that we have people or adults who are actually really their children. Like they're adults in body, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
maybe some habits, but
but
really
here,
they're
yeah,
but
this
really
still
here
teenage.
they're young. Look at how they deal with issues. You know what I'm saying? Look
100%.
at how they it's not even necessarily about, oh, I'm this old and I've done this. No, look at your fucking behavior. It's like a child.
And a lot of
You know
that
what
is
I'm
due
saying?
to the people that they came up with and the people that they're still around, bro. It's like
That too.
a lot of them are very comfortable with being around the same motherfuckers that they've been around for since they were
Well,
like in their
Samo, look,
teens, and
I'm
yo,
I'm
it's crazy.
40, I'm 41 years old, bro. Now, why am I going to jams like constantly? Like that's the thing, like to be around kids that are like 20, 25 years younger than me. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying you can't do that and have fun amongst, young adults and things like that. Of course you can. You can do all those things, right? But that should not be like that's not, it shouldn't be your day-to-day
This is the way I look at it.
thing.
This is the
Like
way I
this,
look at it.
let me say
Go
this,
ahead, go
bro.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I think that you should be around peers and people who are constantly challenging your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Constantly trying to help you mature and push the boundaries of where you're at, right? If you're around people who are consistently younger than you and who's constantly looking to you for information constantly, you stay stagnant in this space. You know what I'm
100%.
saying? You
100%.
stay in this in a it's like, and a lot of oftentimes this is why we have a lot of issues too in the scene, is because we're looking to people who are not actually growing themselves, because if they grow, this generation is growing and they're pushing on to different things. That way the seed and the people that come under them grow along with it, because these people up here are clearing the pathway. You
100%.
have these people up here that are not doing that. They're like, I'm here and I'm staying right here. Because well, for them, hip hop is, to me, from what I see, is a lot of old motherfuckers trying to be young motherfuckers still.
Bro.
And we're in a stage where this culture, art form, discipline, dance has to grow now. you know. Otherwise, it's gonna and it's no more. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the older people in this scene to consistently be coming around
No,
the scene,
you
right?
missed me.
No, but
If
however, I feel that as long as they're around, like fucking with their peers and the
Yeah,
people above
but
them,
that's what I'm trying to
that's
say.
where,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
that's
makes
where,
sense.
yeah,
That makes sense. But no, that's not what's happening
yeah,
because if I'm occupying a space, right? There's no room for the person that's under me to come into this space because I'm always here. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I should not be occupying this space anymore because I want my community to grow. I want my people who are, or the next generation to get this experience. You know what I'm saying? Especially if I'm in a particular space or industry where it's not as fruitful, but I want it to be fruitful. So therefore, I have to leave this space and cultivate something else somewhere else so that when this person is ready, they can come here to this space and
right,
cultivate here. That's not what's happening. And I think that they don't understand that shit. You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah,
And they're like, we've done this, I've done this, we've done. I'm like, yeah, who gives a fuck? You gotta keep doing.
yeah.
I'm just saying, it's like not it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. You have to constantly keep doing it, especially if your community is not winning. You're not like if you don't own it and you're not winning the like the if you're just an employee of your in your own community and culture, you're not winning.
No,
You're not winning.
no way.
If you're not creating and the provider giving the jobs, you're not winning. You have to be the creator and you have to be the one giving the jobs.
Yeah.
And you have to be working with people that are like you within your community so that it can form some sort of reciprocity.
And
And
not even
that way
so
it
much
grows.
like you, more so, I think it's super beneficial to be around people that are better than you too.
Yeah, even better, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Even better.
because
Even
there's
better.
like you're an example of one of those people that because I used to really pay attention a lot whenever I used to like go to jams and I used to judge jams kind of like based on my experiences and how the attention to detail in how motherfuckers were like curating their jams, how they were being edited, how the flyer looked. Like there was a
Right,
lot
right.
of things that I was actually paying attention to, while I was coming up that, eventually led me to want to do events and want to, test it out and say, I would say to myself, I remember when I threw my first event, I said, no, I could do this. I've been to enough jams and I've been to enough really dope jams to really truly understand what it is to have a good event. I knew what it took to okay, I knew that I had to save up money. Somebody, I don't know if it was you or who it was, but I remember knowing, okay, I gotta make sure that I save up this much money because I cannot depend on the door to handle all of the payment that goes on throughout the night.
Right,
Like
right.
there was just so much. There was just so much that I knew that I had to do before I threw my first really good event. And watching you and your growth throwing chicken and beer and the way that you were kind of cultivating that culture in New York, because that was one of the first events that came around that was not just breaking. It was literally you turned chicken and beer was like a battle, but at the same time it was a party, and at the same time it was like it's just something out of the norm. Like, okay, you gotta throughout the process. This is the first time that I go to a jam and people intentionally got drunk to battle just for the fucks of it. Like there was you know what I'm saying? That wasn't part of the criteria of the event. However, it was the environment was so loose and so it's just the environment that was created was loose enough for people not to have to take the battle so seriously, you know. And I
Right.
think that was one of the most special things about Chicken and Beer is that Cass just wanted to go there to have fun rather than going there to like really be dedicated to win. I can't front. I was super dedicated to win, but there was something about that environment that led to not only the b-boys having a good time, but then people outside of breaking wanting to go just to be there. And in most cases, that wasn't really a thing. Like just to have spectators at a jam, you know.
Right. And that's been
Well,
my goal
let's
for
just
all
say,
of this, for the
yeah,
longest, bro.
have spectators at a jam that weren't necessarily part of the scene, you know. And that was one of the biggest lessons. Like, okay, when I throw a jam, I don't want there to just be b-boys and b-girls and dancers. Like, I want people to come through and just have a good time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just got tired of like, I'm gonna be, I just got tired of smelling knee pads and all kind of shit. Like it feeling like that, you know what I mean? Like I wanted it to be like, yo, people gonna come in and they're gonna enjoy this shit because it's different, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, oh, I could drink beer. Oh, it's free. Oh, I can eat chicken. Oh, that shit is good. Oh,
On
shit,
top of
they
that.
break dancing. Oh, it's hype. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like that shit kind of like killed and we just, like, it was just something dope, you know? I mean, all it's, you know, you clean it up vomit every night. I mean, after that shit, all this, you know, like you just like, ugh. Because everybody's like, wow, you just going over to a corner. You like, what the fuck? You like, oh, over here too? God damn. But it was just something dope to kind of like, you know, just being different, you know, and everybody like enjoyed it and loved it, you know. That's why I was like, this is it's it's like something I would want to do again, but everything has got to be totally right. It has to
Yeah.
be totally, totally right. I can't not do it. It has to be really, really right, you know. So it like everything's got to be right, you know. It's like now there's so many carbon copies of the shit. It's crazy. Like
You think
mad
so?
chicken. Yeah, there's mad chicken and beer events, you know, everywhere
What you
now.
say outside of the scene? Yeah, I can
Outside of the
see them.
scene, this
Yeah.
was it. And it's mad chicken and beer shit everywhere now, you know? And it's like, damn, it's like, you know, it's like, do I really want to be in litigation for this shit like that? I'm like, I know that I could do it again, change the name a little bit, but people will know what it really is. You know what I'm saying? And still actually pull it off and do something really fucking phenomenal still, you know?
Listen, man, I'm not gonna lie. Even I've already spoken to you about that jam and bringing it back and whatnot. You don't understand how much people still talk about that
Yeah, I
experience.
don't.
Like
I
people
don't
people
hear it enough.
literally still, just in conversations with me alone, like people still talk about that experience, and not so much in the sense of it was dope back in the day. Like, yes, people still talk about that. However, people still talk about like, yo, why is he not doing this event? Like, it's you did something special, man. You did something special, and I think the only thing left, and you could take this or leave this, but I think the only thing left is to do that shit outside of New York as well.
I think that's what I might have to do, to be honest. I
Yeah,
think
like
I might
don't.
have to
Yeah,
actually do it elsewhere in order to actually pull it off.
yeah.
To like pull it off really ill, I'm gonna have to like not do it here
Yeah, and I
for
think and
sure.
I think it's okay. Like let's say for example, there's other chicken and beers and there's other events or whatever the case may be that have literally nothing to do with the scene, that already exist. But the fact that you're in such a niche market, and you know you have this going on, it's completely different from everything else. Like let everybody else do their own chicken and beer situation or whatever. Um, however, yeah, it's always going to be different because you have breaking involved in it, you know, and I think the scene needs it so much, man, especially now more than before. Because before, I feel competition was very prevalent, obviously, especially during you know the early 2000s when I was coming up. Uh, but at the same time, there was like a little bit of what was a lot of what was going on in the 80s and the jam aspect and the culture and the music or whatever was being pulled from the 80s, but then at the same time the competition started becoming like you know a lot more serious and whatnot. However, the community aspect never really changed. Now I feel like it's turned into, yo, if it's not about the competition, I have no reason to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like now it's become more about the competition and more about, yo, if I don't make it past prelims, I'm out of here. I'm not wasting my time. Like it's a lot of that going on now because if you're not part of the competition, then it's a waste of your time, really. It's almost like you're quote unquote irrelevant if you're not part of the competition. But nobody could talk about the experience that they're having at this event outside of the battle,
Right. Right.
you know. And I think now more than before, it's important to cultivate the whole jam aspect. Like think of a jam and think about the last time you actually went to one, and that it was actually. And I'm not even talking about any type of battle at this point. Like I'm talking about. Remember when they used to have jams in the Bronx, uh, and like block parties where b-boys would just show up just to show up and show face and just
Yeah.
battle. Like those things don't exist anymore, you know.
No, not really. I think in the summertime they kind of come about with
Yeah, but
Schools of War.
what people is you gonna see there? You're gonna see TVB and Ready to Rock.
Yeah.
You're not seeing nobody
I
else
mean,
there.
they
You
b-boys
know?
nonetheless. But I would say that yeah, those things are pretty cool, you know. I think that I mean, and I think they kind of like shut down the block party thing in the Bronx a bit, you know what I'm saying? Now, you know,
Right,
that
right.
shit is like not a thing. It's not a thing. It's got to be special like kind of thing, you know, because they don't want problems, you know, at what you
For
know
sure,
that
for
they
sure.
usually do arise, you know. I see block parties in Brooklyn a lot more because it's a little more contained, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, gentrification can do that, you know what I'm saying? So like they have it there and it seems like it's all right, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And for those who you know don't know what chicken and beer is, it's a breaking event where uh, that Nemesis started. That whenever you paid your entry fee, and the entire night, literally until it ran out, it was unlimited chicken and unlimited beer for the whole evening. Like again, it was one of a kind. It was its own thing. And, you know, maybe it's like you know, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's just like a past like victory that you know you're okay with leaving in the past and it be like the legacy or whatever
yeah,
you know of the
I'm
time.
cool. I'm like it. I like it for what it is and what it did, and I'm happy. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
Like,
Yeah,
like I would be interested in doing it again, but the planets have to align correctly. It
yeah.
all has to be right. You know, I would want to. It has to. You know, another thing that made it pretty dope is kind of like which DJs to have. That time we had Rich Medina come and shit, and that whole feeling, how everybody was just like zoned out. That shit was just like the battles happened, but the everybody was just like zoned out, like, yo, this shit is amazing. You know what I'm saying? It was like And then you see like, people dancing house. That's was like, yo, this is fucking dope. I love this shit. It's like I want to be a part of like something that had dope music, dope dancers. I got refreshments and, able to chill and like have that experience. That's what really like that's what did it right there. Like I'm gonna see what I can do. I'm gonna talk to somebody and see where, because there's only like maybe there's two places that this could actually happen properly, and I'm gonna see if it can happen.
Yeah, man.
So it'll be interesting. I haven't thought about actually doing that event again, right? Unless like I just really didn't think about it. I'm trying to like create something new, something different, something a little bit, that's not a whole nother vibe, but like I still like that party, that kind of party, good atmosphere, but something where it's like it hits and it's a home run and you like, yeah, this is dope.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
with I just want to shift the conversation a little bit, but not too much.
Do it.
Um, as far as the Olympics go, coming, you sharing your story and you obviously being from the Bronx and being where all this originated.
Yeah.
Did you foresee this becoming like the next step for breaking?
I'm not too shocked, you know. I'm not too shocked. I think that when they tried to do it before in the 80s, it was like impossible.
Also, they tried to do it.
No, they didn't try to, but I'm just speaking about action and Michael Holman actually putting a petition together and actually trying to get it done. It's impossible back then. Like they had like some hopes of this actually happening, and it was like, nah, this is not gonna happen.
Mm.
You didn't have enough countries involved. That's one. Two, the amount of protocol and rules that had to go along with this would have been impossible for them to do. There was no real worldwide community for this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was no, you need like you need an international federation built of at least I think 75 countries, and each country has to have a national member body or its own governance. No way in hell this shit was gonna happen in the 80s. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, no,
It's,
no. Not at the time for sure.
yeah, to me, this is like damn near almost right on time. Almost. According to the time, according to the timeline, it's on time. Now, according to breaking having its shit together, that's a whole nother discussion. And again, it's like it's through no fault of like this generation. It's like again, who do you have that is going to direct and push this in the direction that it should go in, right? Let's just say it's not even an Olympic prospect or anything like that. Why don't we have a world federation or organization, period, regardless to what?
Because the scene is still ran by the same
Yeah,
teenagers,
but that's
with
my
the same adult teenagers.
but that's my point, right? And then they go, well, who is this person to do it? Who am I to do it? Right? And it's like, well, you say you a fucking leader or a pioneer or whatever, right? That's who you are to lead this. You don't hear other people in other cultures who respect and love it say that shit about their traditional dances or the things that are part of their culture. They see some shit that needs to be done, they go and they do it.
Not only that, but I think, and I've been saying this since this whole Olympic initiative, came to fruition. I think it's more important as well for people of our community to want to collaborate with people outside of our community that are actually way better than us at very specific things.
100%.
And
100%.
and I think that it's a lot of ego, first off, and I don't think that people are aware enough to know that they're just not good at everything.
You're not.
there's people outside of our world that are great at, production, the
Administrative.
yeah, administrative work. They just, we need to start pulling people in that are literally have an expertise in what it is that they do, in order
But
for us to
this is the
blossom,
mindset
grow
for
to a whole
most
other
of the
level.
this is the mindset for most of this community. If they can't break, then they're not good at anything. And
Oh my
it's
god.
kind of stupid because it's like, what are you talking about? Like, these skills are not transferable. Like, it does not make sense, right? It's like last night we were talking about how some motherfuckers can't write back or write an email back. That's a part of professionalism, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like, even if the response is no, if somebody wrote you a message, they at least deserve a response. It could be no, it could be yes, it could be, oh, I can't make a decision right now, but at least they get a response, a timely one. You know what I'm saying? It's like you respond to an email or some shit 5 days later or 6 days later or something like that. And let's say it slips your mind. That's one thing. But to not respond ever, like, or anything like that, that's where people go, okay, I see what I'm dealing with here.
I mean,
You know
I
what I
feel like
mean?
that also shows like the value that the value of whatever it is that they received in that email, and knowing whether that's actually something that they really like, willing to take on, or not, or just seeing the value in whatever it is,
Yeah, but
or
again,
not
it's like
seeing the
this.
value.
Yeah, yeah, right. But again, like I said, regardless to what it is, at least they deserve a response, is what I'm saying. It could be no. It, like I said, it could be no, or it could be
Yeah,
not
I'm,
right
I'm
now,
not
or it could be
interested, or
yeah, yeah, or oh, my interest is of this and doing this at this time or whatever, that like that means a lot, even if it's no, because it shows that, oh, this person read what I wrote to them, right? And this person got back to me in a timely response.
yeah.
Now, here's the other thing that also says it is that, oh, I can get in touch with this person and they will respond. So that also helps that other person go, I can recommend this dude for something that this person probably don't want to be a part of this project, but he could be a part of this other project. You know what I'm trying to say?
What is it like? You being part of the committee, on the national and somewhat international level as well. What is it? What is it about specific individuals that makes them valuable enough to be contacted for this
Or at the
initiative?
tables, I think it's more so your involvement and the way your involvement and what you're capable of, what your resources are, how are you able to help. I think in my case, I don't want to speak for anybody else's capabilities. I think that I've been like vocal in terms of the Olympic process and how it works, and actually getting that out there to people, being a part of USA Gymnastics, being a part of the USA Wushu Kung Fu Federation. These are all national member body organizations that I've been a part of in uh, uh, in one space or another. One as a coach, and another one as a competitor. You know what I'm saying? And understanding the process of that also helps me understand this process on a national level in terms of how to get that to this information to people and what does that mean.
Yeah.
um Obviously having experience doing events here in New York City, and helping out in other parts of the country as well, knowing how sanctioning runs and things like that, how to follow the rules when it comes to that. I mean, also on top of that, having a very strong understanding of what the history is of the actual dance and where it possibly is going, and having a nuance an objective understanding of the timeline and history at the same time. Because then that also enables me to talk with either side, where this side won't talk to this side, this person won't talk to this person. I don't have a problem with approaching either side or having an objective approach to, the timeline or what was first or what came last or whomever. I don't have a problem with telling the truth if it's contrary to what this person says or that person says. If this is what we see, this is what we see. We're not just talking about your perspective or your perspective. You know what I mean?
That's one of the most interesting sides of. Sorry to cut you off. That's one of the most interesting sides about uh, the older heads in our community. Is like, just because you experienced it does not make the other person's experience
the same.
invalid or not true.
Right.
It becomes like a cross of a boundary you're uh, when you're saying that somebody else's experience isn't true, or when you're talking about somebody
Especially
else's
without
experience.
proof.
It's like, yeah, it's like, talk about
And
your
especially if it's
experience.
based on your perspective and what you feel, and not based on anything that's factual that you can actually prove.
I mean, yo, there's a lot of things that I experienced in my journey that I don't have a paper trail of. However,
Right.
at least I'm speaking about my personal journey. I'm not talking about on whether this person did what or a timeline or anything. Like, don't, if you don't have proof of someone else's journey, then don't talk about it. You know,
Yeah, but see,
talk
but
about your
that's
own
but that's
perspective.
that's where we have the problem, right? Somebody will actually definitively say something as a statement and stand on it, and you're like, where the fuck did you get that from?
Yeah, yeah,
And how did you come to that? And they'll say that shit, and like, do you know we live in a world where you actually need like proof, a reference? You know what I'm saying? Stats. Like, and that's where that shit, they don't understand it. And I'm just like, all right, this is where we got to leave you. I'm not saying you're out of the conversation. It's just, this is as far as the conversation goes with you, because you can't measure up at this point anymore, right? Because I can't deal in your perspective, because it has, I can't verify what you're saying. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
Can't verify it, nor cross-reference it with anybody else, what anybody else is saying.
yeah, for sure.
So that's where we get these people who just say shit without actually having definitive actual proof, or somebody else saying it, or cross-referencing. So it's like, you're just making shit up at this point. And we have a lot of that. A lot of people just making stuff up based on how they feel.
I just always found it really interesting. Like, yo, what is it that there's literally no value in claiming specific things that never happened in your journey. Like, there's literally none. Like, for example, the argument of who created the first windmill. Like, what is happening? You literally do not receive anything by saying you are the first person that did it, you were the second person that did it, you did it before this person, and I think it goes back to like that teenage mentality on wanting that like level of recognition
Yeah.
from something that is truly invaluable. Like, you're not receiving no like, you're not receiving money for being that person. You're not in the record books. Like, there's not even a record book yet. Like, for certain things just yet. Like, there's no value in it outside of you feeding your own ego.
Right.
And I
It's
think
like,
that's one of the things that destroys the scene more than anything is the fact that people are feeding their ego before they're actually feeding the scene.
yeah, but that's how they grew up, man. That's how they grew up, bro. That's how they grew up. They don't give a shit about nothing else. That's just how they grew up. They don't see all these other people out here. They see all these other people out here, and how could that service me? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah, big time. What
You're
and
not actually providing service, you know?
yeah, what segueing from this, how important do you think it is to be part of the dance community in any aspect, right? Whether it's like the freestyle community, whether it's
Right,
breaking, whether it's the dance industry. How
right.
important is it? Do you feel it is to have gain another skill coming from the industry or community that you're coming from? Like, let's say, for example, in your case, you were a b-boy and then you transition to uh, throwing events and becoming an event organizer, right? Although you may have just been like, fuck it, I'm just gonna give this a try, right? You gain a certain level of experience, within doing that, right? Then, like, for example, you were a dancer in the entertainment industry, and then eventually you transition to becoming a stuntman. Like, these are new skills that, like, your foot was in the door, and while you were in this specific room, there were other doors in this room. You understand what I'm saying? That may not have been wide open and may have not been closed and locked, right?
Right,
But it was cracked. They were cracked open enough for you to just want to peek in and be like, "What the fuck is going on in here?"
right, right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like going to fucking going to Club Speed when Shelter was there and going to every single room to see what the fuck was going on in every,
Right,
you know what I'm
right.
saying? And I've always found that that's one of the most important things to get to do when you're getting into the dance industry in general. I think that's for any industry, for you to want to stay stagnant, um, and just be what you were since the moment you got introduced to this. Like, there's not necessarily something wrong with that, because the growth is not literally not for everybody. However, you become, in my take, you become a lot more valuable when you're curious and you're interested in going into these other rooms and finding out, what can I learn from these new spaces?
You know what's so funny you asked that question? I attribute this that goes way back to junior high school when we had to pick and look for you get these books, you get these books and you look and see what high school you want to go to, and then you see how to apply to it. I attribute that moment to that and auditioning to go into a performing art high school, because obviously the junior high school I was telling you I was going to, although it was kind of like the best in the one of the best in the borough in terms of public school, but it has so much bad elements around it at the same time.
Right.
No telling what type of fucking high school I would have went to, right? But for the mere fact that for I wanted to follow something because I wanted to be an actor and and do martial arts and film and shit like that. And I auditioned with the help of my great grandmother, with with coaching me on my monologue and everything like that. And I got into this school, and from that point on, that shit just things just proved to me all I had to do was try and be persistent, and you could make it, you could do it. Obviously you need skills and other things too, but all you have to do is you have to show up. You have to show up and be there. You know what I mean? And as long as you show up and be there, it's like, yo, we know this person is really here, to really learn this and do this. We want this person. This person is here to really do this here. And from that point, everything I did was to that attribute every time was to, if I wanted something, go get that shit. If I wanted something, go try it. If I wanted something, let's do it. You know what I mean? Let's make sure the circumstances is correct because we don't want to be caught out there. But let's do it. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so like once I see in terms of like making each transition, and I say, you know what, I could do this. I could make this transition. I'm gonna do it, and I do it, and that's just it. You know, it's like you see other people and they stay in these spaces because they don't know or have the wherewithal or have the courage to try. I mean, like, fuck it, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And that's how I think like moving through these different spaces, and also at the same time I'm learning and growing. So that should say something too at the same time.
It's
You're
that growth,
learning
man.
something.
Yeah.
Making this transition into stunts was a thing too. I had to learn within that. But then you have people who, like much like how in the breaking scene is like, oh, we like who we like and we want to teach who we want to teach and we want. So that's what I attribute. So I don't really take it too personal in that regard. But I do look at it as like I had to learn and it was a little bit harder to learn. And I'm still learning by being here. It's a little bit harder to learn in this atmosphere a little bit because it's such a exclusive industry in itself, you know.
Yeah.
So so who you have to sit for a little bit, stay quiet, and actually see where it works best for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important for people to grow within their community. You know,
Right.
like because it's not like it's and I know a lot about how you started your stunt journey or whatever. It's not like you had a random idea, and not that this is necessarily wrong, right? But it's not like you had a random idea of, oh, I want to do stunts. Like, no, there was something you came across based off of the rooms that you were already included in. It
Right.
was, and that's why I have respect for the people who were part of one community, and not necessarily that they left the community. However, every skill has its own separate community, even if it's in conjunction with the community that they're a part of as well. Like, for example, seeing seeing b-boys become DJs, right? That it's in conjunction with our scene, but it also has a separate scene of its own, and it's a part of other scenes. Seeing specific b-boys become videographers, and gaining a skill based off of what they saw in the scene that we were already a part of. You know, um, seeing uh seeing b-boys become business owners, and having their own fucking schools, and somebody like Moy, like being able to see somebody like Moy uh being able to take his school and create a franchise. Like, that to me is literally the formula of how to formulate your journey. In again, not just this industry, but this should be the case in every industry, man. Like, it's so important because that's how we truly find, not only do we become more valuable, but we also learn to find we become valuable in and outside of our scene by doing that.
Right.
We become a lot more of an asset than just a participant in, in,
Got you.
in our communities. Like, that shit, that I don't know. That's one of the most important things. I try to preach that to everybody. Like, yo, come in here, but don't be afraid to explore within this realm, within this room.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah,
So what
man,
else is up, Mr. Soto?
not much, bro. Working on the Super Bowl right now. Working on man, you already know I'm part of the same stunt journey as you, man. I was in that room as well when you were in there. And I was
Yeah.
like, yo, this is kind
You
of
know, I was like, if I'm gonna really do this, I'm gonna really do this. So
yeah,
let's do this. And
yeah,
that's what like, that's really what did it for me.
yeah, man. Well, yo, I think this is a perfect way to end this podcast.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Um, Yo, I appreciate having you on. This will not be the first time we're on. I'm definitely gonna start bringing more heads in. But as our
Yeah.
journeys go on, especially as the Olympic initiative starts getting a little larger and becomes more prevalent to the public and whatnot. As we get
Right.
closer to 2024, I'll definitely have you back on for updates and to see where it's headed. Find out a little more information on like you know uh, just the growth of it. Internally and externally as things just start getting bigger.
For sure. For sure. Just
Yeah.
don't be don't be scared to holler at me.
You already know, bro. I talk to you every fucking day. Like,
All right.
well, yeah, man. Thank you for hopping on, and I'll fucking talk to you in like 5 minutes.
Yep. All right.
All right,
Stay in
y'all. This
touch.
concludes the first episode of the Level Up podcast. Once again, thank you, Nemesis, Jamal
Thank you,
Warren,
sir.
for coming through and blessing the introduction to this new journey. All right.
Yep.
So later, everybody. Peace out, and
Peace.
hope you enjoyed.